beautiful building. So I even have my name there, sort of. I never know which lights are on. Okay. First thing I get some enlightenment. I've been a feminist all my life. Woo! There was that moment in 6th grade when my mother said, so make your brother's lunch. And I said, why should I? It was 1965. I was 21 years old and in my first real job.
It was 1966. I was in my last semester as a senior at Georgetown University, majoring in nursing.
It was 1973, just after Roe v. Wade was passed. I was 26 years old and had just become an abortion counselor at the Eastern Women's Center in New York City.
We were young.
We were young.
We were young. We had so much to look forward to.
So in 1965, I found myself pregnant. And I knew that I didn't want to have a kid. It was I was on my own. It was my first teaching job. I was 21 years old. And I just knew that I had to do something. I asked around. I luckily found someone I knew whose girlfriend had just had an abortion, and he gave me the name of the doctor. And so I went to this doctor in New York City, and she told me, yes, I was pregnant, and she said, okay, it's going to cost $1,000. And I said, I had my first teaching job. I was being paid $3,000 a year to teach, while men were being paid $5,000. Just want to point that out. And so I thought, well, that's a third of my salary. I don't even have $1,000 because it was 2 months into teaching. I told her I didn't have it. We went back and forth and we settled on $700. But I wake up during the abortion to screaming and I realize it's me. And I'm in pain. And the doctor's, looks at me and actually, I'm lying there, I see a light, and the doctor yells, my neighbor slaps me, and I go back out. And then I guess I didn't think about it too much. I definitely felt shame. I definitely felt bad because it was illegal. I felt like it was shameful that I got pregnant. Then Roe v. Wade was passed, and this was great. I was celebrating. This was fabulous, and I thought we were good, period. I thought this was it. We never would have to worry about this again. This is the law of the land, and women are not going to have to worry.
Good morning. We're coming on the air with breaking news from the Supreme Court at this hour. The justices handing down the highly anticipated ruling on abortion and the fate of the landmark Roe v. Wade decision. This is a majority opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito.
Roe going down just made me angry once again, made me realize that I can't stop being an activist. I don't want to. I wouldn't mind putting my feet up and reading a book, not doing stuff, but this is very, very, very important. And I'm doing it for me, and I'm doing it for all the women who are young now who could get pregnant, for them, for you, so that you have the right to do what you want with your body. I'm in a group called End Abortion Stigma, which is a group of women, many of whom had illegal abortions in the 60s. As we knew Roe v. Wade was going to disappear, we started meeting weekly. We do everything we can to bring to light what's wrong right now with everything around abortion.
I worked closely with them as this language was being drafted. They also really helped me connect with the community to get feedback and to share what was being worked on in council. We really felt that this was not a typical issue that we were responding to, right? This was a serious, it's like the largest human rights rollback in this country in decades. But we wanted to signal, like, listen, if you're not from New York, we're just over the border, and if you need to come here for emergency or planned medical care, this is a safe place to do so.
I know that the law enforcement in this area, including the sheriff, will not engage with people from out of town so that women who come to Ithaca will be safe, and they'll be safe in our Planned Parenthood. They are pregnancy centers all over the country that promote themselves as pregnancy centers, but they're run by religious organizations many times, and they're funded by religious organizations, and they're anti-abortion. So though they don't tell you that, when one goes in to talk to them, they do everything to dissuade you from having an abortion by lying to you, by giving you false sonograms, by promising you things they'll never come through with. And they look and sound like a regular pregnancy center, but they're not.
I would just say it's very appalling that they're allowed to operate with the impunity that they have. I take a view that if you want to provide healthcare options to people, you should have to provide full spectrum services. And the idea that somebody in crisis who has to make a really tough decision would be intentionally misled or given incomplete information to prod them along towards someone else's morally desired outcome is something I'm extremely uncomfortable with. I will say I know my colleagues at the county legislature are looking into this issue. I know there's an effort to try to expand the Department of Health's educational outreach around what it is exactly these centers provide and really importantly what they don't provide. And we're also looking in at the city level to see, is there a way we can mandate at least information posting in the same way that you have in New York City, restaurants post their food letter grades in their windows, right? Is there a way we can require these institutions to acknowledge publicly what it is that they don't provide?
I said that I had gotten a positive result on the pregnancy test, and she said, "Oh, that's good." Even though I had already shared my feelings that I was overwhelmed and scared, she reacted with, "That's good." They provided me with no support and no resources.
There are about 3 times as many in this country as there are legitimate women's health facilities. So even here in Ithaca, there are 2 to our 1 Planned Parenthood. There have been patients who came in and they were frantic and, they were, we would, do an intake and say, well, you look like you're within, the time frame for terminating a pregnancy, if that's what you decide. And they say, oh, but no, that's wrong because I just had an ultrasound and I was told I was like many more weeks pregnant, then. And when we would do the ultrasound, it was just incorrect, So is it by design? Was it by incompetence? We don't know, but it's doing harm. They take very detailed histories when you walk in. You get a medical history, you get a social history, much as you would, if you went into Planned Parenthood. The patient doesn't have HIPAA protections, and that data can be used.
No woman, as far as I'm concerned, should ever have to worry about having an illegal abortion. Women absolutely have the right. It is health care. It is reproductive justice. It is exactly what everyone deserves to have. at this point, or any point in their lives, they have the right to do what they want with their body, to make those choices. And that's, I think even if I hadn't had an abortion, I would feel the same exact way.
I think the best path forward at the community level is for us to continue to do a lot of the work that's been done for decades, but really uplift like the normalization of the need to seek abortion as a medical decision. And I think there's been so much like willful misinformation about what it means for someone to make that choice. Now that we're in a situation where we've seen the federal government is willing to fail us on this, we need to make sure that the conversation is had at the local level, at the state level, that the protections that we believe in are enshrined, and that we normalize, this as a healthcare issue people face. So it's really hard, right? I mean, part of me wants to say, know that this is a community that you could seek support in. But I also recognize that there is an implicit economic assumption that somebody is able to uplift their life and seek services elsewhere or relocate elsewhere. That's to say nothing of the cultural and familial ties that they might be leaving behind if they were doing that. And so I think while that needs to be an ingredient in the solution, we also need to continue to push across the country that this is not okay, and that even if a particular fight doesn't go our way, keeping this centered and loud helps give people, the courage and the support to continue fighting against what I view as, again, very wrong-headed policy decisions.
It's still important that young people know what it was like before Roe v. Wade, and now you are knowing what it's like, so that several reasons. One is to inspire you to work, to inspire young people to stand up for their rights, which I think this election just showed is extremely possible. I personally think the reason the election was as good as it was because young people voted, and they voted for abortion. So I think that inspiring young people, letting young people know that there are ways to be active, that we created something as activists, we don't want to lose it, and we want you all to keep it going. I think young people, and I think women and allies of women are beginning to show that, in fact, you can't do this to us again. Not gonna happen.
You're it. You guys, you're it. You're the generation. You're going to carry this forward.
I regret that I couldn't see any other way out. In a kinder, wiser society, perhaps I would have been able to give that child life. But my experience has led me to believe strongly that women must stand up for their right to make their own decision when they become pregnant. Without shame, without stigma, without fear.
Without shame, without stigma,
Without fear.
Reproductive justice for all.